Okay, so what if I told you that you're hallucinating right now? Seriously. That your entire experience of the world, and even of yourself, isn't some crystal clear window onto reality. Instead, it's a kind of controlled story, one that's being actively generated by your brain. Now, I know that sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but it's actually one of the most powerful ideas in modern neuroscience. To see what I mean, just take a look at these two images. They're footprints in the sand. The ones on the left, they probably look like indentations, right? Kind of concave. But the ones on the right, they look like they're popping out at you, almost convex. So why is that? Well, here's the wild part. The image on the right is the exact same image as the one on the left. It's just been spun around 180 degrees. So what's happening here is this amazing little glitch in our perception. See, your brain has this deeply ingrained rule, like a built-in filter, that assumes light always comes from above. And it's a pretty smart assumption, right? Because for pretty much all of human history, our main light source was the sun or the sky. So your brain takes that rule and interprets the shadows accordingly, which forces you to see a difference where, objectively, there isn't one. This simple illusion, it cracks open a much, much deeper question. If our perception can be so easily fooled by one of the brain's own built-in rules, then what is our brain actually doing when we see the world? What is really going on in there? Well, the answer lies in this powerful theory that completely reframes how we think about perception. We're not just passively soaking up reality like a sponge, nope. Our brain is actively building it, constantly making its best guess about what's out there. It's a full-time prediction engine. The official name for this is predictive coding. And the core idea is pretty simple. Perception isn't a one-way street, with information just flowing from our eyes and ears inward. It's the other way around. Your brain is constantly generating predictions, its own little hypotheses, about what's causing all that sensory information. And then it uses the data from your senses to check its work and make corrections. Here's kind of how it works. Picture it like a constant conversation. From the top down, your brain sends out a prediction, saying, here's what I expect to see. Then, from the bottom up, your senses send back what we can call an error signal, which is basically just a message saying, whoa, here's how you were wrong. And what you consciously perceive, what you experience, is the brain's updated guess after it tries to make that error signal as small as possible. This means your brain is constantly filling in the gaps. You know, the data coming from our eyes can be messy or incomplete. So as research from places like Dartmouth College shows, your brain just enriches it. It fills in the missing details based on its past experiences to create the smooth, stable reality you're experiencing right now. But here's where it gets really mind-bending. This whole predictive process isn't just for seeing the world out there. It's also responsible for something way more fundamental, our sense of being a self. The illusion, it turns out, is also pointed inward. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I get it. For optical illusions, fine. But this doesn't apply to my own body, to my very sense of being me, right? But what if it does? There's this fantastic experiment that shows this in action. It's called the rubber hand illusion. Here's how it goes. Your real hand is hidden, and a fake rubber hand is put where you can see it. Then, someone strokes both your real hand and the fake hand at the exact same time. Your brain suddenly has a conflict. It sees the touch on the rubber hand, but it feels the touch on your real hand. So what does it do? To solve this puzzle, it just makes a new prediction. It adopts the rubber hand as its own. People literally feel like the fake hand is part of their body. And this is the crucial point. As neuroscientist Anil Seth puts it, our deepest, most intimate experience, that feeling of being an embodied self, is just another form of perception. It is, in his words, also a, quote, controlled hallucination. It's the brain's best guess about what is and what is not your body. So this all raises a pretty big question. If we're all just walking around hallucinating, why hasn't evolution gotten rid of us? I mean, wouldn't seeing the actual truth be a better strategy for survival? Well, maybe not. It turns out that evolution might actually prefer a useful illusion over a complicated truth. Cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman makes a really radical claim here. He argues that natural selection doesn't actually favor creatures that see reality with perfect accuracy. It favors creatures whose perceptions are just tuned to fitness, whatever keeps them alive long enough to pass on their genes. Seeing the absolute truth, that's a luxury that evolution doesn't really care about. Hoffman uses this brilliant metaphor to explain it: the desktop on your computer. Think about a file icon on your screen. It might look like a little blue rectangle. But the actual file inside your computer, That's a ridiculously complex mess of circuits and voltages and ones and zeros. That blue icon isn't the truth. It's a useful symbol that hides all that complexity so you can get stuff done. Hoffman argues our perceptions are exactly like that. So our perceptions are basically survival hacks. They're evolved symbols. If you see a symbol that your brain interprets as a speeding train, you better get off the tracks. You have to take that symbol seriously. But, and this is Hoffman's whole point, it's a mistake to believe you have to take it literally. The train you see isn't objective reality, it's your brain's life-saving user interface. Okay, so let's tie this all together. From simple optical illusions to our very sense of self, all the evidence seems to point in one direction. Our conscious reality isn't something we just passively receive, it's something we actively generate from the inside out. This beautiful, simple phrase from Anil Seth just says it all, doesn't it? We predict ourselves into existence. That constant process of predicting and correcting isn't just how we see the world. It's how our brains literally construct our sense of being a living, breathing person inside that world, moment by moment. So, what are the big takeaways here? First, that perception is an active process of prediction, not a passive one of reception. Second, your brain is always filling in the gaps to create your reality. Third, this even applies to your sense of self. That's also your brain's best guess. And finally, this whole system evolved not for seeing the truth, but for survival, which means our consciousness is deeply tied to our living biological bodies. Anil Seth likes to say that when we all agree about our hallucinations, we call that reality, which leaves us with one final fascinating question to chew on. If our individual realities are all just our brain's most likely story, what happens when our stories don't line up?